It's one of the most secure commercial buildings on Earth. There's several $100 million worth of diamonds 2 levels below the ground. Imagine you're about to steal them. There are 60 cameras around the perimeter of the building watched by police 24 hours a day. The entrance to the territory is blocked by guards. Inside the building, there is a security service. The entrance to the vault with the diamonds is blocked by a door 30 centimeters thick, and inside the vault is a sophisticated alarm system. Light sensor, motion sensor, vibration sensor, heat sensor, and even if you've gone through everything and got to the diamonds, that's just the beginning. Now, without leaving any clues, you need to leave the building, the city, and the country unnoticed. You're going to tell me that's impossible. But 20 years ago, a 50-year-old Italian man and his accomplices did it. He committed what many journalists would later call the heist of the century. He stole over $100 million worth of diamonds using a stick, a piece of styrofoam, and hairspray. In this video, I will explain the details and mysteries of the largest diamond heist in history. How did the intruders manage to rob one of the world's most invulnerable vaults on one of the most guarded streets in one of the safest cities on the planet? The action took place in the small Belgian city of Antwerp. It was February 17th, 2003, Monday, 7:30 a.m. on the clock. Detective Patrick Pace was going to work, at which point he received a call from the local police station. The inspector reported that there had been a theft at the Antwerp Diamond Center. Detective Pace and his partner arrived on the scene half an hour later. Even without going inside, they realized that something terrible had happened. The place is usually empty at this time of day, but now there were a lot of people gathered on the street near the building. The crowd was excited. The detective and his partner went inside. At that moment, a call went off at the security firm that remotely monitored the security systems in the vault. The dispatcher picked up the phone. "Detective Pace, can you tell me if the security sensors at the Antwerp Diamond Center vault were triggered?" Dispatcher: "According to my information, everything is fine. The security systems have not been breached, and right now the entrance to the vault is secure." "Who's asking?" At the time of the conversation, Detective Patrick Pace was standing in the middle of a ransacked vault with diamonds and gold bars scattered on the floor. After thoroughly examining the vault, the detectives realized they were dealing with the largest diamond heist in history. Over $100 million worth of valuables had been stolen. The thieves succeeded in the impossible. The place where the diamonds were stored was considered impenetrable. To understand the full scale of what happened, let's rewind the history a little bit back. 16th century, the city of Antwerp. This is where diamond traders began polishing and processing diamonds. Initially, diamonds mined in nature do not look very attractive. The craftsmen from Antwerp 500 years ago began to process the stones with special tools, diamond grit and olive oil, turning diamonds into cut diamonds. Antwerp has been the diamond capital of the world ever since. 80% of all rough diamonds pass through the heavily guarded diamond quarter of this city. There has not been a single case of robbery, except for ours. Entry to the neighborhood was limited. There were guard posts that allowed only a small number of inspected vehicles through. There were 60 cameras on 3 small streets, monitored by police officers. If a person entered the neighborhood, their every move was captured on video. During business hours, police officers patrolled the neighborhood. In the heart of the Diamond District was the Antwerp Diamond Center. Everyone who entered the building scanned their badge and was checked by security guards. Therefore, it was impossible to get in unnoticed. There were several dozen surveillance cameras in the building. The vault is the main advantage of the Diamond Center. The vault was located on the 2nd floor underground. A huge iron door 30 centimeters thick and weighing 3 tons blocked the way to a small square room. The room contained a couple hundred individual cells where people kept their valuables worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You could only get into this room if you rented a safe deposit box. The vault door opened in 2 steps, a 4-digit code and a physical key, to which only the guards had access. There were no CCTV cameras inside the vault to maintain customer privacy, but there were plenty of other security features. A motion detector and a thermal detector scanned the space and picked up the slightest temperature change in the vault. No one could be in there undetected. There was also a seismic detector that picked up the vibrations of a drill if someone tried to break into the vault. There was a light detector on the wall that picked up any light source at night when no one was in the building. There were special magnets on the door that only connected when the door was closed. The magnets were controlled remotely. If the vault door opened during off hours, an alarm would alert the police. After scrutinizing the crime scene, the police had no leads. No one knew how the thieves had gotten in. No one knew how they left the building. It was a perfect crime committed by a criminal genius. The story of the robbery of the century began a few years before. In the year 2000, Leonardo Notarbartolo arrived in Antwerp. He was 50 years old, a pleasant, sociable Italian. He rented a small apartment with a small bed and a tiny kitchen in the center of Antwerp. Leonardo is originally from Turin, Italy, where he was in the jewelry business. Antwerp is the perfect city to find resources for his business. Our hero rented an office in the Antwerp Diamond Center, so he was able to document in detail all the security measures in the buildings. Also, he carefully studied the people responsible for security. A short conversation and exchange of pleasantries, all in order to learn as many details as possible. But the main bonus Leonardo Notarbartolo gets as a tenant is access to the second underground floor to the diamond lockers. One of the cells in the vault belongs to him. For 2 years he lives between Belgium and his native Italy, where his family is located. In Italy, Leonardo carefully analyzed the information he received together with his accomplices. Each member of his team is a specialized professional in their field. One is an expert in lockpicking, another masterfully forged keys, and the third disabled the alarm system. The accomplices did not just work out the robbery plan on paper, they built a real replica of the diamond vault where they honed every step of the operation. The accomplices took more than 2 years to prepare. The operation was scheduled for the night of Saturday to Sunday, February 15, 2003. At that time, a big international tennis tournament was taking place in Antwerp. The main prize in it was a statuette in the form of a racket with a ball, made of diamonds and precious metals. The night of the robbery, with the clock a little past midnight, the accomplices drove up to the Diamond District in a car. They stopped on a nearby street, not far from the police post that blocks the entrance to the neighborhood. Since this street is not part of the Diamond neighborhood, it is not monitored by cameras. Several people with bags walked past the police station and went to the underground parking lot of the Antwerp Diamond Center. Unlike the main entrance, it was possible to enter the building through the underground parking lot without using a safe deposit box tenant pass. The intruders picked the lock and got inside. Instead of using the elevator, the thieves took the stairs down to the second floor below ground level. In front of them was a door weighing 3 tons. It blocked the entrance to the vault. The criminals needed to break the door in total darkness, as there was a light detector on the ceiling. For this reason, they needed an exact copy of the room, because in such conditions the team has no right to make a mistake. On the door is a lock with a code. It consisted of 4 digits. One of the accomplices dialed the right combination the first time. But how did he do it? A few days before the robbery, Leonardo Notarbartolo, on another visit to his safe deposit box, was able to record the code entered by the guard using a hidden camera. There was still one lock left that was opened with a physical key. During numerous visits to the vault, Leonardo Notarbartolo noted that, before opening the door, the guard always went into the back room next to the vault. There the thieves found the necessary key and opened the door. Of course it was luck, but in case of lack of a key, in the team was a man who masterfully opened the locks. The last stage of defense is 2 magnets. When the door is opened, they disconnect and trigger an alarm. So the accomplices fixed the magnets with a special aluminum plate and unscrewed the 2 magnets together without breaking the magnetic field between them. The thieves pushed the magnets aside, opened the door, and entered the vault. At that moment, they heard the most pleasant sound in the world: silence. None of the alarm sensors had gone off. The first thing the tallest member of the team did was to tape up the light sensor on the ceiling. Now the accomplices were able to turn on the flashlights because before that, absolutely everything happened in pitch darkness. But why didn't the other sensors work? Everything is ingeniously simple. A couple of days before the robbery, Leonardo, during one of the visits to the vault, brought with him hairspray. When he was alone in the vault, he sprayed the varnish on the heat sensor and the motion sensor. This should have blocked the sensors for a while, but the accomplices didn't know how long the hairspray would last. The sensors could go off at any second, so the thieves taped them up with foam boxes. The thieves began breaking into the boxes with a special jack. After a few hours, they were able to empty more than half of the boxes. That's where they stopped, because the loot will have to be carried independently. Don't forget that the thieves came on foot. Having collected their bags, the accomplices were ready to leave. But before that, they had one more problem to solve. Inside the Diamond Center, there were video surveillance cameras working around the clock. But in the course of preparation, Leonardo found out that no one was constantly watching the cameras 24 hours a day. The cameras simply recorded images on the weekend, and the security guards reviewed the footage on Monday. All they had to do was take the surveillance tapes. One of the thieves broke into the security office and stole the surveillance tapes. Afterward, the thieves left the building the same way they came in. At that point, the group split up. Some of them got into a car and the rest of them dispersed. The next day, Leonardo and an accomplice collected trash, leftover food, bagged it all up, and drove off to burn it. They stopped at a highway and headed deeper into the woods. On the way, Leonardo's partner caught the bag of trash on a branch. The trash fell out onto the ground. Here, Leonardo made a fatal mistake. He thought that the place was so deserted that no one would ever find the garbage. They left the evidence and returned to the car. On February 17, 2003, just over a day after the robbery, detectives realized they had reached a dead end. There were no leads, no traces, or witnesses. Only one thing was obvious. Only criminal geniuses could have pulled off the operation. The people who robbed the Diamond Center in Antwerp were members of the so-called Turin School, an organization that included very experienced thieves. Basically, they specialized in jewel theft. This organization was like a fight club. The main rule of the Turin School was not to tell anyone about the Turin School. Thieves from this organization used extremely sophisticated methods of theft, applying knowledge of engineering, physics, and other sciences. They carefully calculated and thought out all their operations. At the very moment when the detectives realized that it would be almost impossible to solve the crimes, they received an unexpected call from the police station in a small village 50 kilometers from Antwerp. That call changed everything. Mr. August van Kampf, a pensioner, lived near Antwerp. He owned a small patch of woods and he took a walk there every day. On that day, February 17th, Mr. August van Kampf discovered garbage in the forest. He immediately called the police and told them that there was money and precious stones among the trash. The police went to Mr. Augustus' house and spent several days examining the evidence found in the garbage. In addition to documents from the Antwerp Diamond Center and currency from various countries, they found small green stones and food scraps with DNA traces of unidentified persons. Also among the trash was an interesting document. It had the details of one of the companies that rented an office in the Diamond Center. The head of this company was Leonardo Notarbartolo. The police found that the vault box belonging to Leonardo had not been broken into during the robbery, so the document of his company could not have ended up in the trash. Police officers searched Leonardo Notarbartolo's empty office and then went to the apartment. There they found small green stones on the carpet, just like the ones in the trash. In the end, thanks to the evidence found in the garbage, the police managed to restrain 4 people, including Leonardo Notarbartolo himself. During interrogations, none of the detainees said a word. Leonardo Notarbartolo was sentenced to 10 years in prison. His accomplices received less. Leonardo was released early in 2009, 6 years after the robbery, at which time he gave the only interview in which he told a little about his biography. "I committed my first theft when I was 6 years old. My mother gave me money and sent me to get milk. In the end, little Leonardo brought not only milk but also more money. At the time of my visit, the milkman was asleep and I took advantage of the situation to steal from him. And then I continued my childhood criminal career. In junior high school, I stole money from teachers' bags. In my teens, I switched to stealing cars. At the age of 30, I began assembling a team of unique professionals, each of whom was fluent in a different skill set, from lockpicking to alarm breaking. Robbing a diamond center in Antwerp became my work of art.